So I decided to go on to read Deadhouse Gates and the Prologue more specifically, after being convinced to at least try this one out. One person on Reddit said that I would notice a difference in writing quality after only the first section here, the prologue. And I'm very pleased to say that this prologue was phenomenal. So now I will touch upon why I did enjoy it so much. Plenty of times in Gardens of the Moon, I felt like the flow of his writing was not perfect. At times I felt he wrote unnecessarily complicated sentences. Some difficult words were used here and there to show flair, to impress, without really the need for it. This was my subjective impression, whether or not it's accurate. In this prologue, I think things are better balanced. The language is still similar to Gardens of the Moon. He uses plenty of difficult words, but they feel like the right word. You cannot simply exchange the words for synonyms. If so, you would lose some of its effect. In this prologue, things flow a lot better. You don't need to stop and start. Wait, what did he really mean here? No, it flows and you get captured by the story. I was hooked. I know this is subjective, but to me, the writing is a lot more engaging and balanced in this prologue. It seems to me that Erikson grew a lot as a writer between the first and the second book. Now, what I missed in my initial episode was that it was supposedly 10 years between book 1 and 2, despite them being published 1 year after the other. And this explains a lot to me. I feel like this prologue here could be a standalone story. And when researching his writing, I've seen that Erikson initially was a short story writer and still identifies himself as one. I think you can definitely see that in this chapter, and it's very well written. So I will definitely go on to read Deadhouse Gates after this prologue. I really hope the writing stays at this high level. Of course, prologues tend to be better written in general in order to get readers hooked, but it also seems as Erikson has matured as a writer after Gardens of the Moon. The tone in this prologue is also a lot darker, which is something I really enjoy. At times, the scenes and the violence was absolutely horrifying, but in a good way. As difficult as it was to envision the scenes that he paints, it was very engaging, and I was highly involved. This was something that was lacking for me in the first book, specifically in the jagged tyrant scenes. Now, I really liked the world building and the lore from the first book, and this was why I wanted to continue reading, despite struggling with some of the prose. I think it could be fun to do an episode of some wild predictions that would most likely all be wrong. I have limited knowledge of this world, and I prefer not to understand stuff and rather experience the world with limited understanding, instead of reading up on what an ascendant or a warren actually is. So if this sounds fun, then tune in to the next episode.